The next stage of Australia's largest ever public transport project is only 1 month away. The Sydney Metro. A project decades in the making and a project locals have been calling for even longer. Including 4 new metro lines, 46 stations and 113 kilometres of new metro rail, it's estimated to have a total cost of about $64 billion. The Minns government has confirmed that a new section of the technical marvel is set to open in August this year. When that happens, we will be witnessing a revolution in how residents and visitors of Australia's largest city travel, with claims of better connectivity and more regular and reliable services on the way. But is that what we're going to see? Let's take a closer look at the Sydney Metro project, what it entails and how much it'll cost and how it will change the lives of Sydney residents and businesses. I'm Mel Pikos and today we're talking tactics. Sydney is Australia's only global city, and although it's neck and neck with Melbourne for size, it is our centre for international business and trade. A world city needs world-renowned rail infrastructure, and the Sydney Metro project is aiming to become just that. So what is the Sydney Metro? The Sydney Metro is a project that aims to augment and enhance the rail infrastructure across Sydney and its outer suburbs. Its main goal is to reduce travel times drastically. This includes a new tunnel crossing the Sydney Harbour, which will help to connect Sydney's north with the CBD. The project's development is split across 3 different lines: City and Southwest Line, the West Line, and the Western Sydney Airport Line. The Metro Northwest was already completed in 2019, with new light rail lines to be installed in the next month. The City and Southwest Line will be a 30-kilometre extension from the end of the Northwest Line at Chatswood under the Sydney Harbour through the new CBD stations and southwest to Bankstown. The second track is the Sydney Metro West, connecting the CBD and Parramatta. It's expected to be completed in 2030. The final track will connect to the under-construction Western Sydney International Airport with the outer suburbs St Mary's, where it will connect with the rest of the transport network and should be open in the next 2 to 3 years. The trains themselves are promised to be some of the best in the world. The New South Wales government has already solicited 26 new Alstom Metropolis trains, with 19 more to come when the City and Southwest Line is extended from Chatswood to Sydenham. Alstom Metropolis trains utilise state-of-the-art smart technology and will be the first trains in Australia to be completely driverless. The new carriages and the stations themselves have been made to be fully accessible. Approximately 70 lifts and 130 escalators will be installed on the Sydney Metro from Chatswood into the city. The light rail will also house 2 wheelchair spaces per carriage, as well as dedicated priority seating, making travel smoother for those less able. This is important because currently more than half of Australians living with a disability have reported they do not use public transport because of difficulty accessing the service. Another major change is the removal of timetables. Instead, a new train will be guaranteed every 4 minutes during peak hours and 10 minutes during off-peak. The new stations constructed for the Metro feature artworks and installations from Indigenous artists celebrating our national heritage. This includes the famous footprints on Gadigal Nura at Waterloo Station, which features this photograph of a young man from the local Brolga Dance Academy. The project is owned by the Transport Asset Holding Authority, or previously known as Rail Corp, which is a state-owned company. However, operations are being handled by Metro Trains Sydney, which is a joint venture between Hong Kong-based MTR Corporation, John Holland, and CPB Contractors. John Holland is a subsidiary of Chinese Communications Construction Company and has a 20% stake in Metro Trains Sydney, has listed that holding last year at a $1.16 million loss. So, how did we come to building the Sydney Metro? The world has changed a lot since the Metro's initial proposal, but the overarching goal is to develop greater connectivity within Sydney remains the same. It's a goal that community leaders have been talking about since the Olympic Games in the year 2000. Ron Christie OAM was New South Wales Director General of Public Works in the early 2000s. He submitted the original long-term strategic plan for rail to the then Premier Bob Carr. Mr Christie argued that as Sydney grew, particularly in the western suburbs, a more robust rail line would be essential. In the original report, Mr Christie wrote that because of the complexity of almost all aspects of this project, it will be essential to start serious planning for this new line immediately, which, of course, didn't happen. The project would not be picked up again until 2007, when the then Labor government began discussions with the idea of the Anzac line. But it wouldn't be until 2012, when then Liberal leader Barry O'Farrell was elected as Premier, that we see our first look at the future rail strategy, which would see construction begin that year. The then Transport Minister and future Premier Gladys Berejiklian began the process of creating and implementing that plan, which had 4 major goals for Sydney Rail. 1, service integration and improvements. 2, modernise and extend the network. 3, to deliver a new CBD and southeast service, which will include overhauling the CBD bus network to integrate with light rail and better connect commuters. And 4, the completion of light rail connecting Circular Quay, which did not eventuate, the CBD, and the southeast, including Moore Park and the University of New South Wales, with a secondary goal to increase the number of pedestrians on George Street. 2 years later, in 2014, construction would begin on the Northwest Line, which would open in 2019, just 5 years later. The master plan would be updated again in the Future Transport 2056 document, designed under the Perrottet government. Now under the current Minns government, we are seeing the outcomes of over a decade of hard work. So how does this benefit the people of Sydney? Sydney is a city divided by north and south. Currently, its constituents only have 2 options for crossing the harbour: over it via the bridge, or under it via the harbour tunnel. And while much of the Sydney Metro's infrastructure will benefit the city, the Metro West line will be city defining. It will greatly ease congestion in the inner suburbs, and travel times will decrease for all train commuters. Before Metro, a trip from Chatswood to Town Hall via the T1 and T9 lines took roughly 23 minutes, but the Metro should get you to the adjacent Gadigal stop in only 13 minutes. A trip from Chatswood to Sydenham via the same line can take roughly 40 minutes, accounting for a transfer. With the Metro, it only takes 22 minutes, almost half the time. Also, a number of developers have begun to take advantage of the new rail infrastructure. When Macquarie Group learnt that the state government would be building a train station under its headquarters, it decided to take full advantage. Macquarie Group pitched a new development that will now feature 2 towers that will feed into the station below in what is rarely seen in Australia. So it's obvious that the Metro is going to have a massive effect on the way that Sydney-siders will experience their city, as well as tourists. But does it justify the price? Will the Sydney Metro be worth the cost? After decades of proposals, planning and construction, the Sydney Metro will soon be finished. City and South West cost approximately $20.5 billion. The West Line is approximately $25.32 billion, an overrun of about $12 billion, and the Airport Line will be bringing the total cost of the project to a whopping $64 billion, the largest infrastructure project in Australia. The state government is currently over $200 billion in debt, so the costs are inevitably going to be passed on to the public. However, if the state government is to achieve its goal of making a more connected Sydney, the project is a must. And it is valuable to the quickly growing economy in Western Sydney. The New South Wales Department of Planning has recently indicated its intentions to establish Parramatta as Sydney's second CBD. In fact, Ronald Misen from the Australian Financial Review has already declared the home of the Eels has already met that milestone. The Western Line is designed to help increase the flow between Parramatta and the Sydney Central Business District. This will connect Australia's largest economic centre with Western Sydney, its 3rd largest economic centre. And according to realestate.com.au, Western Sydney suburbs are preparing for a housing market boom in response to the Metro. Meanwhile, the project has created over 10,000 jobs and 250 apprenticeships. But Let me know what you think. Is the Sydney Metro the exact thing that the city needs to bring Sydney in line with other global cities around the world? Do you think it was too expensive or worth the price tag? Is it even going to affect you in your daily commute? I personally look forward to getting on board one of these trains and zipping across Sydney's inner and outer suburbs, but I'd love to know what you think in the comments section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my next video. That's it for today. I'm Pikos, and we've been talking tactics.